Good morning everybody, this is Pawan and today I am back with one more interesting video. And in this video we are going to talk about one of the most interesting story in the history. And this story is about vaccine. So before starting this story, I'd like to quote a very beautiful line. And this line says that necessities lead to inventions. And in Hindi it translates to आवश्यकता ही आविष्कार की जननी है. So today we are going to look at the live example from this quote. So let's begin. So this story starts with a very deadly virus which is called as smallpox, and this disease was widespread in 18th century across Europe. This disease was caused by a very small virus which was called as variola virus. It developed, so this disease basically developed with high fever, which later developed into a rash, and this rash later developed into a fluid filled blister which looked something like this. So this image that you see here, this is a very concentrated form of smallpox. When we look at the statistics of how many people were affected by this smallpox, among three people, they lost their visions, and among 30% people died, and the one who were left with deep scars and they lost their visions. Now you can see over here around 400,000 Europeans were dying each year because of this particular disease. So it was a very deadly virus. It was spread across Europe, Asia, Africa. It was a very widespread disease. Now something had to be done. Okay, something had to be done to stop this disease from spreading. There has to be some cure. So scientists that time developed a method which was called as variolation. Okay. So variolation, in this procedure what they were doing is they were deliberately infecting a person with smallpox, and this smallpox which they were affecting the person with was a live virus. It was not attenuated or weakened version of virus. It was a live virus from an infected person. How exactly is it done? So what they were doing is they used to go to infected person, from the infected pustule they used to take that pus and do a scratch in a healthy person, then they used to rub on that scratch. So to a healthy person they were basically transferring the pus from the infected person, the live virus. This was one of the method of variolation, and one more method was they used to send the dried scab. It looks like this. So this is the pustule of smallpox virus. It developed from this small blisters to this. Okay, so this is a dried scab. So what they used to do is they used to send these dry scabs up the nose of a healthy person. So what happened then? So if I variolated a person, was he cured? Was he saved? When they looked at the statistics, among 1 to 2% of the people who were variolated were dying. Okay? And the one who were not dying, they were either cured or they developed the disease and then they spread. So each variolation was, again a site for spreading a disease. They acted, they were contagious of the disease. Until the scabs were dried, the person was contagious. So variolated was curing people. Okay? It was, helpful, but it did not completely eradicate the disease. It was still a serious, serious form of procedure where the people were still getting affected. If not cured, they might spread the disease to other people. Okay? So that was the process of variolation. It was very risky, but yes, there was a ray of hope. So among this time there was one of the greatest scientists that was born that time. Okay? And this scientist was Edward Jenner. So Edward Jenner was born in 1749 in England, and that time the disease was also spread in England. So he graduated as a doctor. He became a doctor. Then later he went on to look at a cure for smallpox. So during his time he observed a very interesting phenomena. He observed that the milkmaids with mild cowpox disease, they never caught smallpox. So the people with the milkmaids with milder cowpox did not never caught cowpox. So this was a very interesting observation. So this cowpox basically a disease. You can see cowpox pustule on the udders of cows. Okay, this is spread from there. And later what he did was, he had a very interesting idea. What he did was, he took the material from the pustules of cowpox, then he wanted to infect a healthy person with it. So he wanted to cause cowpox in a person, and then when the person later develops immunity for that cowpox virus, he wanted to infect that person with smallpox to see if he can fight this cowpox disease. So the procedure that he used here was called as vaccine, and the word here vaccine comes from cow. Okay, now this word is widespread for all the type of vaccination, but the root word vaccine, vaka, okay, that means cow. So let's see what exactly the procedure was that he used. What he did was, so there was a milkmaid whose name was Sarah Nelms. So she was Sarah Nelms. So the cowpox was spread from the udder of cow to the hands of milkmaid, which caused pustules on the hands. So from these pustules, what he did was, he inoculated James Phillips, and James Phillips was basically the son of the gardener of Edward Jenner. So he infected James Phillips with the cowpox pus. Okay? And later this Phillips, he developed mild fever. Okay? And after some days, he was okay, he was fine. Then later what he did was, he took a person with smallpox, and from that smallpox infected person, he inoculated the pus to Phillips. So first the person, that James Phillips, was affected by cowpox virus, was inoculated for cowpox virus. When he got okay, then he was infected with the smallpox virus. Then what later he saw made history in the vaccine. Okay. So this person, James Phil, who was first infected by cowpox virus, now was not infected by smallpox virus. So from this he concluded that the person who is immune to cowpox virus is immune to smallpox virus. That is determined by this particular experiment that it did on James Phillips, who was the son of the gardener of Edward Jenner. Okay. Now this is a photo of Edward Jenner vaccinating a child, and it's very interesting to see. During this vaccine was developed, it was not widely accepted by everyone. So there were critics, there were people who opposed Edward Jenner's vaccination. They were talking like, you cannot mingle with humans using animal flesh. So it was faith versus fear. So people were confused if it's okay or not. But when they saw the results that the person who were vaccinated, none of them were affected by smallpox. So zero smallpox infections for the person who is immune to cowpox. So this method became wide throughout Europe, Asia. It was spread across all the countries. Now a very interesting thing, when this vaccine was developed, it was not accepted, right, by everyone. So there were critics. So people opposed it in a very interesting way. So what they used to tell is, when you get vaccinated by the cowpox, or when you get inoculated by cowpox virus, you develop cow faces, so projections of cow from your faces. You look at this image. So this is a very interesting image that was made that time. So this was not animated. This is the actual image that was made and was spread across the people to show that vaccination is not good. So when you get vaccinated by cowpox, you develop horns, you develop structures like cow, like you see face of cow, face of cow, face of cow, that are developing from the mouth. But this was slowly this news faded, and vaccination was accepted across by the government, by all the people, because the results were very good. So this is how the first vaccine was developed by Edward Jenner. And if you see here, the last case in Ecuador was in 1962. You see 1950 to 1980, WHO declared that world is free of smallpox. So Edward Jenner played a very crucial role in the development of smallpox virus. So this is considered as one of the greatest stories in the history, that is the history of vaccine. So we will end here, this topic ends here, and in the next video we will come with one more interesting topic. You can also put in comments whatever story you want to hear in this lecture. Okay, so till then, bye bye.